Black Visions TV.
For me, today is about opportunity, an opportunity that could be afforded to all. My mum was an entrepreneur. She didn't know that she was an entrepreneur because she never called herself that. She had some phenomenal abilities, two of which were she could look at anything you were wearing, sit at her old Singer sewing machine and sit down and make it and sell it to the neighbours. That's how she used to do things, just to make a couple of extra pounds. But my mum should have had a business that she called Curtains and Cakes. She should have floated on the AIM market and she could have got one of the people on our panel to invest in it and probably make millions. She didn't know the word entrepreneur, not because she wasn't great at languages or her vernacular wasn't as great as some people that we'll be speaking to this evening. It's just because she called it making ends meet. That's what she did. She provided for her children and made sure we had a platform, so I'm here speaking to you this evening. I think the reason why the Mayor has extended the invite to both the panel and yourselves is that we need to change the conversation. We need to change the conversation around what we do with our talents and what we do with our skills and how we benefit the communities and environment that we're part of. London has a phenomenal history of people who are making their own way. The story of individuals who have come over from generations, whether that be Windrush or before, and made their place in this capital, is one that we all are aware of. What we must do is make sure that the conversation is a positive one when we're discussing Black history, hence why I think business is a perfect forum to do so. Firstly, let me introduce our host this evening, Mayor Boris Johnson, who has extended the invite for all of us to be here in his lovely office, so much appreciated, thank you very much. On my left, we have Damon Raffini. Damon Raffini is founding partner of Premier, a private equity firm, and he was chairman and managing partner from 1997 to 2010. Natasha Faith, look at the chocolate there, Ray. Natasha Faith is one of the founders and CEO of design company, jewellery company, Leviosa, a Hatton Garden-based luxury jewellery company which uses exquisite and rare gemstones. Sonia Brown is founder of the National Black Women's Network, Let's Talk Business Networking Forum, and Sister Talk, the UK's leading online forum for women looking to connect with leading companies. Next we have Rick Lewis. Rick Lewis is not only the most tall dapper man I've seen in a long while.
Yes.
When he walks in, you'll know he's in the room. He's also Chief Executive and Chairman of Tristan Capital Partners, a London-based real estate investment management company with $4 billion in assets under management. And finally, but last but by no means least, we have Ade Sawyer. Ade is founding partner of Equinox Consulting, a management consultancy set up 30 years ago in 1983. Congratulations, Ade. To promote economic and social advancement amongst disadvantaged communities by offering management support services and enterprise strategies.
It seems like really only yesterday, but it seems also that we've come a very, very long way from 35 years ago, when many Black people did not think about self-employment and did not even think about setting up a business. Those days are behind us now, but it's essential to chronicle the effort that has gone into bringing Black people to this present state where we can be positive about the future and where we can go into business. Several businesses existed 35 years ago. I'm saying 35 years ago, we had lots of travel agencies, party shops, takeaway businesses, record shops, several hairdressing salons all around, and all these businesses were doing where they were serving a captive ethnic market. They were very small businesses, but those businesses needed to grow. And it took the efforts of the then UK Caribbean Chamber of Commerce to bring the issues to light, to say that there are Black people, they are in business, but they face problems. And so we had the Home Affairs Select Committee look at the issues of West Indians in business in this country, and that was 1980. So, a lot has been done. The banks were very helpful after a while because they recognized that black people also had a market, and it was important to entice enough black people who would go into business. And indeed, despite all the problems of those days, I wish to applaud some 3 businesses at the time. The Dyke and Dryden, who you may all have heard of, who did very well in hairdressing business. Val Makala of The Voice newspaper, who also did excellent work in terms of and then there were, of course, Patrick Berry and Neil Campbell of Choice FM, who also did excellent jobs. But even though these were successful business people, if we look at it, they were still serving the captive ethnic market. We needed to have crossover businesses, businesses who would move from serving that captive market into the whole wild world. And it was possible. And I think that some of the initiatives by government in terms of the DTI and the setting up the task forces in the inner cities all help. They help because a lot of black people, instead of straight jumping into business, went into jobs. And when they went into jobs, they did very well in those jobs. They rose to senior positions. They had ideas, and they now realize that we can now go and implement these ideas. We can now talk the language of the banks. We now know how to do a business plan. We now know how we can set up businesses in terms of being able to run those businesses well and not having anybody tell us that we don't know what it is that we are talking about. So the government initiatives helped in terms of helping people into business. But there was some aspect of the initiative that did not work. Instead of setting one agency, like the Minority Business Development Agency, as we have in America, it looked like most of the programs were all over the place. So there was incoherent in terms of being able to track how well the businesses were doing, to the extent that somebody could then say, let's look at this. Is it working? What can we do? We cannot blame the government for that. We cannot blame the authorities for that. Because what should have happened was that, as black business people, we should have been able to set up a business association that should have stood the test of time. Because what was needed in the 90s were access to markets. It was about procurement now. It's no longer about setting up a business, going to look for a bank or having a business idea and writing this. It was how do we penetrate the markets and the networks that continue to be closed to us. We now have a new type of entrepreneur. We now have an entrepreneur who is knowledgeable, an entrepreneur who knows how to talk to the banks. But those entrepreneurs still need that network. They still need those markets. All the work that was done into procurement was to provide training. People did not have real access to the contracts. The reason why they did not have access to the contract was that they were small. And governments in it had decided that instead of unbundling contracts, they had huge contracts. So you don't have the track record to bid for that huge contract. You don't have the money and the bond to bid for that contract. You need to find somebody to help you. What we need now, in order to give black businesses another push on the backside, is to start unbundling contracts. To take contracts into bite-sized. So if we are saying that we recognize that small and medium-sized businesses need assistance, and therefore the government will give 25%, ensure that 25% of contracts will go to small, medium-sized businesses. Why can't we set aside 10% of these contracts for black businesses? Why don't we help them with that opportunity that they need in order for them to be able to do well. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is somebody who definitely knows about crossover and the worldwide aspects of the business. Please, a round of applause for Damon McPhee.
Entrepreneurship, what is it? Why is it important? I think Napoleon accused everybody in the UK, Britain at that time, of being a nation of shopkeepers. He meant it as an insult, but it isn't. Right? Small businesses, entrepreneurs are the bedrock of this country. Right? They take responsibility for themselves, they create services for their communities, they employ people. They are the bedrock of the nation. And the reason I'm delighted to be here and pass on a few of my experiences of successful entrepreneurs is that I think in the next 10 or 15 years, 20 years, that's going to be much more important. You know, the days of big businesses supporting the country and driving the country, I feel, are gone. Right? It's people like you in this room who are going to determine whether the UK is successful or not. I've spent a lot of time in business, the last 25 years. I think we've supported about 300 businesses. Some of them are very successful, like New Look, which was started by Tom Singh, one shop, became 500 shops, and is now worth over £2 billion. Some of them have not been very successful. And by watching these entrepreneurs at work, I've learned a few things, so I thought I'd just pass them on to you. My top 10 tips. Okay, first one, sounds obvious. The customer. Every single business person, everybody in this room says, of course, you've got to know what your customer wants. Why is it then that some really smart businesses go out of business? Like BlackBerry, for instance, right? Why is it that Apple control the music market and Sony don't? That relentless focus on what the customer really wants, not what you think they want, what they really want. That's the key. Forensic analysis of what the customer wants. Tip number one. Tip number two, world-class execution beats world-class business ideas. The harder you work, the better it is, right? Get up at 5 o'clock, I think would be somebody who gets up at 7 o'clock. Right? So execution. A good idea is not enough. You've got to execute. What does that mean? Just drive out of the markets, get your product to market quicker, just provide better service. Be quicker to market. All those things, that's the key. Execution. Thirdly, we all talk about these great entrepreneurs. You know, Jobs, Branson. But you know, it's not about being big. In my experience, small can be really beautiful. Fourthly, pricing. Pricing. The failure of so many businesses don't understand pricing. Well, if you get your prices wrong, i.e. if you don't charge enough, initially, you never get it back. Doing the work on understanding how much someone's going to pay for your product or service is worth it. Don't go into business without knowing what your pricing power is. Just leaving money on the table. Right? Fifthly, profit is not what kills a business or makes a business. It is cash flow. Cash is the king. Number of times I've seen great businesses run out of cash. Right? If you're in the retail business and you've got one product that sells and you've got 10 that don't, you're going to go bust. It's all about cash. And it's all about the banks, but it's all about cash, managing cash flow. But team. Great entrepreneurs never do on their own. They've always got a great team behind them or with them. Most of them can't count very well. They've always got a good finance person. Absolutely key. Somebody who does something that you're not very good at. Somebody who's better than you, that's fine. I've got 2 more points. Communication. Entrepreneurs start a business and they're driven and you know what the customer wants, you've got everything right. When it gets a bit bigger, you've probably got 10 or 15 people working for you. they sort of don't really have the same level of drive that you've got. You've got to make sure that they can communicate with your customer the same way that you can. Right? You've got to train them, you've got to be able to pass on that enthusiasm, pass on that knowledge. Absolutely. They're going to be your face to the customer. You can't be everywhere. If you are going to be everywhere, then your business isn't going to thrive because you're going to run out of energy. So you've got to pass on that knowledge. Final point, I think I've run out of time. Being an entrepreneur, it's really hard work. Right? It's really hard work. It doesn't always go well. In fact, often it really doesn't go well. You know, and you're going to be working really hard, you're going to be driving yourself really hard, you're going to be driving your team really hard, and the people that work for you. Don't forget to have some fun. Right? Not just for you, but just for the people that are in your business. Because all these businesses are just based on people, right? So if you want to work for you and you want to be successful, don't forget that. So they're the tips. I'm happy to talk about them when we have the panel, but thank you very much for listening.
No, folks, you've had a fantastic introduction so far from Addy, from Damon, from Tim. I was an entrepreneur. I started out, I had a brief flowering. I had a moment when I thought I could run a tile factory. And it was the days when all these yucky kitchens in the late 1980s, yucky kitchens were in vogue, and that was my thought. I thought I would be a manufacturer of splashback kitchen tiles with floral designs. And I went to the length of getting a final building where we could make these things, and I was partners, and it was a disaster. I literally, the whole thing went bust in about 48 hours. It was a night on tiles, was how I found. So what I lacked was the key thing that I think all entrepreneurs have got to have, and that is the ability to keep going in spite of failure. And I know a lot about failure as a member of the Conservative Party. You've got to keep going, you've got to get going. There was an old song by a guy called Chumbawamba. I didn't know the song you talked about, but you remember the song by a guy called Chumbawamba. You're all too young to remember it, but it's like, get knocked down and get up again, you ain't never going to keep me down. I get back and go on. That is what an entrepreneur needs in my view. And I see people in our city who have unbelievable aspiration and energy. I'm thinking of the young people I met in the 639 Centre, have I got that right? The 639 Centre on Tottenham High Road, where they're doing all sorts of things straight out of the box. They're starting off all sorts of schemes in TV, they're making fashion stuff. They sold me some very, very beautiful rose-shaped earrings, which I bought for a modest outlay and gave to my wife, I'm proud to say. And they went down very well. And I think that when I look at what's happening in the London economy at the moment, I'm filled with confidence and hope, because it's changing unbelievably fast. Yes, of course, we're still the world capital of finance and of banking, and yes, we want to encourage that sector, but you're seeing a huge constellation of new industries from across the whole spectrum, and they're all interrelated. They all have possible connections and synergies with each other, from tech to design to fashion to music to media, that huge range of creative design, niche manufacturing industries, and some of them also related to the sciences and to medical science. And in that area, there is massive opportunity for our city and for entrepreneurs in our city, for black ethnic minority entrepreneurs, to get going and to make their name. Now, what are the barriers? What are the things we need to do to make sure that people can get going in the way that they want it? We need finance, access to finance. We need to make sure that we help people export. We're an ambitious city, aren't we? People have great visions for their products, and so one of the things we want to do, and Kit Malthouse is leading on that for us in City Hall, is to help people to export their products. We need people to overcome the terrible chasm that seems to befall so many young enterprises when they face the prospect of expansion, and that terrible moment when they try to scale up and things go wrong. But the final thing we all need in our lives, what do we all need? We need encouragement. We need to believe that we can do it. And the most vivid way of achieving that is to have role models and people who are actually making it and achieving it in the way that we want to do ourselves. And that's why it's so important tonight that we've got these fantastic people here, these entrepreneurs, each in their own different and amazing ways. Natasha Faith is going to talk in just after me about some of the things that she does. Wait, there's one thing I left out. And adding, there was one you said that, you challenged me in the mayor's den. You challenged me, you said, could we ensure that at least 10% of all contracts went to black firms? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yes? Well, we have. Because according to GLA statistics, which I never doubt, the awards in London are made to compete for to our suppliers here in London. 13.4% of them have got the businesses that have declared themselves BAME. There you go. 30%, 10% already. There you go. I can see that statistic is met with a certain amount of incredulity. That is what it says in my brief, ladies and gentlemen. I am not going to deviate from it. London it's my opinion, it's the greatest city on earth. It's a city of incredible opportunity. It's growing the whole time. The economy is changing and developing the whole time in favour of entrepreneurship and dynamism. We are supporting it in City Hall in every possible way that we can. And I know that you guys are going to do fantastic things after you've been inspired. Like it was the American President George W. Bush who said, there is no French word for entrepreneur. It wasn't quite right there. It wasn't quite right about many things. But what we can certainly say is that we in this city have some of the most brilliant entrepreneurs in the black community anywhere in the world, and I hope very much that we will inspire thousands, tens of thousands more to take our city forward. Thank you very much.
I'm going to take you through a journey of how I started my business, because I think that could maybe give you a microcosm of how we deal with our overall business. I started about 4.5 years ago with my co-founder, Sam Carl, here today. We met in philosophy class a few years ago, and I actually wanted to become a philosopher, believe it or not. I don't know why now. But then I found out very, very quickly after I get the opportunity to go to university and study philosophy that in order for me to make any money, I either had to be very, very old or very, very dead before I became famous. So, and make any money, so I just thought that's not going to work. But luckily for me, my father was a fashion designer, a random fashion designer, believe it or not, and he passed away some time ago, but I've always had creativity in my blood, and I've always loved fashion, and I think I owe a lot of that to him. So I decided to pursue my passion, which I think a word that really needs to be said a lot here, which is truly synonymous to what entrepreneurship is, I believe. I pursued my passion of fashion, and I decided to start creating little bits of jewelry here and there. After meeting Sam, we decided to go traveling around the world with each other. We stayed for about a year. I saved all of my money by myself. I saved about 10.5 grand working for 1 year, cutting off friends, stopping watching EastEnders, taking on all of the extra hours I could while working retail. I studied an ICS course while I was actually working, so I'd go to work and then I would study how to run businesses as well while working. It was very random, like 18, 19 years old, thinking I could run a business while also working in TM. Then I went traveling after I took this course. I lived in Mexico for about 6 months of that year, and I learned how to make jewelry while living in Mexico. after we came back from travelling and after we had learned how to make jewellery, we decided to approach Harvey Nichols with our collection. I know probably you guys are thinking, how do you do that? It's a bit random, you just make a collection and you go to Harvey Nichols. It is random, but I saw the collection for what it was, and I was told that I could sell it in markets, but I thought, no, my jewellery is fantastic, I have a sincere passion for it, and it's definitely high-end, and I could definitely sell it in a store like Harvey Nichols. So we found the buyer, and we knocked down on the door, and we said, just have a look at this collection. Funnily enough, she liked it. And she took it on a few months later, and it went into Harvey Nichols, and it sold out within 2 weeks. And I think that's when we figured out that we had something that was really viable. I'm missing out on all the steps here, but I don't want to go at the time. But you know, there was nobody else apart from me and Zen at this point in the business, and it really was all about, you know, just having a dogged determination to be successful and to get into the best store that we felt represented our products and our brand at that stage. So soon after that, we had great people wearing our products, like Michelle Obama, 10 to 5, you know. You can't get better than that, really. So I would like to say that I feel that one of the things that kept us going as a black-owned, female-owned business is nothing different to any other business that is successful. It is just having a pure passion and pure dogged determination to make sure that it works. I completely agree with all of Damon's top tips, but I would also like to add one final tip for myself, which is don't be afraid of failure. I think one key problem that we have that's maybe part of British culturalism is that we are afraid of failure. Failure is always like a swear word in entrepreneurship. And I think if you can grasp hold of it and realize that it can happen, then you throw yourself into your own business and you just try your best and you make it work. You don't care if you fail, and you almost don't see failure ever again because you're successful. And I just feel like one thing that everybody should try and do if you want to start a business is just to try, because those top 10 tips might not end up being yours. You might find another top 10 tips, and you can only learn by actually doing. I've never been a person who follows rules very well, anyway, and I've never been a person who takes authority very well. I've always liked the idea of running my own business, and what the best thing that I have found about it is I wake up in the morning and I'm my own boss, and I go to sleep at night and I'm my own boss. And I just want to leave you with, you know, don't be afraid of failing. Really just try and start and just do it. And, you know, here if you need me.
Fantastic. Thank you.
I think what we have, we've talked about confidence, we've talked about cash, we've talked about customers, but I think what we have as people of colour is to force people to choose our business, where they don't think first colour, they think first quality of business and service. Because that's what I want, is to have that crossover collaboration that Adelaide so perfectly articulated has to be part of that. And who we are makes up that conversation. Please once again a round of applause for our panel.